Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has conceded what he called a painful defeat in a pivotal election that's ended his 16 years in power.
An election upset in Europe that is sending political shockwaves across the continent. Hungary's far-right nationalist leader Viktor Orbán was defeated in an election yesterday. This brings to an end his 16 years in office.
A political shockwave in Europe just triggered a shift that could quietly channel over $146 billion in long-term advantage toward Canada. And almost no one outside policy circles is paying attention to it, even though the ripple effects extend from trade corridors to energy infrastructure and deep into the core of global power alignment. On April 13th, 2026, Hungary delivered a result that few expected to arrive with this level of impact, as Viktor Orbán, who had controlled the country's political system for 16 years with near total dominance, was decisively removed in a landslide that reshaped Hungary's governance structure almost overnight. And stepping in was Péter Magyar, a 45-year-old lawyer leading the pro-European CETA party, which didn't just win, but secured 138 out of 199 parliamentary seats, giving it a two-thirds supermajority strong enough to rewrite laws, restructure institutions, and fully redirect foreign policy without needing coalition support. That scale of victory matters far beyond Hungary's borders because it signals something deeper than a leadership change. It represents a full reset in direction backed by record voter turnout, showing the country is no longer willing to play the role of Europe's internal disruptor. Within hours of the results, reactions from across the European Union and NATO made it clear global leaders understood the weight of this moment, as congratulations poured in from France, Germany, the European Commission, and multiple allied governments, all recognizing this was not routine politics, but a geopolitical pivot with real consequences. Canada responded quickly as well, with Prime Minister Mark Carney signaling interest in expanding trade, defense, and security cooperation in a way that suggested Ottawa had already connected this election to something much larger. Because behind the headlines sits a trade agreement operating at massive scale while still incomplete. And that agreement is CETA, the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, which has quietly reshaped economic ties between Canada and Europe since its provisional launch in 2017. The numbers already tell a powerful story, with two-way trade in goods rising by more than 75% and services trade increasing by 97%, while tariffs on 99% of goods have effectively been eliminated and Canadian companies gained access to European government procurement markets that were previously closed. Yet despite all that progress, the agreement has never reached full ratification because every EU member state must approve it individually. While 17 countries have completed that process, 10 have not, leaving key provisions such as investment protection and legal certainty in a suspended state. Hungary has been one of the most consistent blockers in that group, with Viktor Orbán refusing to ratify the agreement and using it as leverage in broader disputes with the European Union, effectively keeping a critical part of Canada's trade framework in limbo for years. And this is where the election result changes everything, because Péter Magyar has already signaled a complete reversal in approach, promising to rebuild Hungary's relationship with the EU, unlock billions in frozen European funds, and align the country more closely with Western institutions. That dramatically increases the likelihood that Hungary will shift from being a barrier to becoming a catalyst for full ratification. Momentum in trade agreements works like a chain reaction, where each additional country that ratifies pushes the entire system closer to full activation. And once CETA reaches full implementation, it unlocks a complete legal and economic framework across a market of more than 450 million people, providing strong protections for investors, reducing business risk, and accelerating capital flows in a way that compounds over time rather than appearing as a single immediate gain. That's why analysts often describe the long-term impact in figures that easily reach into the hundreds of billions. At the same time, Canada has been actively working to diversify its trade relationships as tensions with the United States continue to create uncertainty through tariffs and protectionist policies, pushing Ottawa to seek more stable partners, with Europe becoming central to that strategy. This was highlighted by the March 5th meeting in Toronto between Canada's Trade Minister Maninder Sidhu and EU Trade Commissioner Mauro Sefcovic, where both sides signed enhancement to CETA and launched negotiations for a new digital trade agreement aimed at expanding cooperation into next-generation economic sectors. When that trade expansion is combined with Canada's decision to join the EU Security Action for Europe framework, marking a significant step into defense cooperation that would have seemed unlikely a decade ago, a clear pattern emerges where trade, technology, and security are being integrated into a single strategic relationship. And each of those pillars becomes stronger once CETA is fully ratified because it provides a legal backbone that supports long-term stability and trust. This is exactly why Hungary's shift is being watched so closely in Ottawa, because removing one of the most persistent obstacles in that system instantly changes the trajectory of multiple connected initiatives. And when you consider how long the agreement has been stalled, how much economic activity is already flowing through it, and how much more could be unlocked with full activation, the scale of the opportunity becomes clearer, especially since partial implementation already drove 75% growth in goods trade and 97% in services without using its full capacity. Yet trade is only one layer of the story, because the same political shift that could unlock billions in economic value is also reshaping Europe's security environment, which directly affects Canada's global role. Hungary under Orbán often acted as a blocking force within the EU, including delaying or obstructing key decisions such as a €90 billion aid package for Ukraine, demonstrating how a single country can influence outcomes at a continental level. For Canada, which has been one of the strongest supporters of Ukraine and a consistent advocate for NATO's eastern flank, that kind of obstruction created real strategic friction, weakening collective action and introducing uncertainty into alliances Canada relies on. And this is where the election result becomes even more important, because Péter Magyar has pledged to move away from that approach, reduce reliance on Russian energy by 2035, and rebuild ties with Western allies, effectively transforming Hungary from a source of resistance into a potential partner. That transformation extends directly into energy markets, where global demand has shifted significantly since 2022 as Europe accelerates its move away from Russian energy, creating a supply gap that must be filled by alternative sources. Canada is positioning itself as a major player in that transition, with plans to export up to 100 million tons of liquefied natural gas annually, supported by infrastructure projects already moving forward. Projects like LNG Canada in Kitimat, which began shipping its first cargoes in mid-2025, show that this strategy is already in motion, while a Phase 2 expansion is expected to double capacity to 28 million tons per year. Additional developments such as wood fiber LNG, CETA LNG, and the proposed KSI Leasums terminal continue building the network needed for long-term export growth, aligning closely with Europe's policy direction, which includes a phased ban on Russian LNG imports set to fully take effect by early 2027. When these timelines intersect, the implications become difficult to ignore, because every country aligning with Europe's energy transition increases demand for reliable suppliers, and a Hungary that supports rather than resists that transition adds further momentum. This amplifies the opportunity for exporters like Canada, often described as providing energy that cannot be turned off by political pressure, a quality that carries significant weight in a region where energy security is tightly linked to national security. When all these elements align at once, trade expansion, energy exports, defense cooperation, and political stability, the result is not a single event but a convergence of forces that create a window of opportunity capable of reshaping Canada's global position in ways that go far beyond one agreement or election. That convergence becomes even more striking when viewed through a broader political lens. Hungary's shift is not only about economics or energy, but also about the ideological direction of global politics. Viktor Orbán had long been seen as a central figure in the rise of populist nationalism, building connections across regions while often challenging multilateral institutions, and promoting a more transactional style of international relations that prioritized national leverage over collective coordination. His defeat by such a wide margin raises questions about the durability of that model, particularly within Europe, where the balance between national sovereignty and collective action continues to shape policy decisions. Reactions across the continent reflect that tension, with some leaders openly celebrating the result as a victory for unity and democratic alignment, while others responded more cautiously, acknowledging Orbán's influence without fully committing to the direction of a new government. For Canada, this matters because its global strategy has long depended on stable alliances, predictable rules, and strong multilateral institutions, all of which function more effectively when countries cooperate rather than obstruct. Every shift toward alignment strengthens these systems and expands Canada's ability to operate within them, whether through trade agreements, defense partnerships, or coordinated diplomatic initiatives. Timing plays a critical role in understanding why this moment carries such weight. Within a relatively short period, Canada has joined the EU's defense framework, expanded its trade agreement, launched digital trade negotiations, and now witness a major political shift in one of the key countries that have been slowing progress across all of those areas, creating a sequence that feels less like coincidence and more like strategic alignment. This fits directly into the framework described by Mark Carney, who has warned that the global system is entering a phase of intensified great power competition where economic resilience and strategic partnerships define national strength. In that context, every trade agreement represents influence, every energy project represents leverage, and every political shift in an allied country can trigger ripple effects that extend far beyond its borders. Hungary's transition from a consistent blocker to a potential enabler changes the calculation across all these areas by removing uncertainty, accelerating delayed decisions, and signaling to other countries that alignment with broader European goals can deliver tangible benefits, reinforcing a cycle where cooperation becomes more attractive than resistance. Looking ahead, the potential outcomes become clearer, with full CETA ratification appearing more achievable, energy exports expanding to meet European demand, defense cooperation deepening, and the overall Canada-Europe relationship strengthening into a more integrated partnership that extends beyond trade into technology, security, and long-term alignment. All of this raises a larger question about how global influence is shifting. Moments like this rarely announce themselves loudly, instead building through a series of connected developments that only reveal their full significance when viewed together. Hungary's election may ultimately be remembered not just a domestic change, but for the chain reaction it triggered across systems that Canada has been positioning itself to benefit from for years. So now attention turns to what happens next, because momentum in geopolitics can either accelerate or stall depending on how quickly opportunities are acted on. While the conditions for major progress are forming, obstacles still exist that could slow full CETA ratification or complicate energy expansion, making the next phase just as important as the shift that created this opening. The real question is whether this moment becomes lasting structural change or remains an underused opportunity. That depends not only on Hungary's follow-through, but also on how decisively Canada moves to capitalize on the alignment now emerging across trade, energy, and defense. So what do you think? Does this political shift push CETA across the finish line, or are there still enough internal roadblocks to keep it stalled? And if everything aligns as it could, how large do you think the impact on Canada's economy and global position might be in the coming years? Share your thought below, subscribe for more, and we'll catch you in the next one.